Hi, I'm Jacob Bewlins. I work in the marketing team here at Onside. A couple of months ago, we ran a webinar with the Chief Veterinary Officer of South Australia, Dr. Elisa Spark, who gave some great points and spoke with her expert knowledge on everything H5N1. So I wanted to distill a few of those points just before we launch into this to give you some context of what's going on. And that's not obviously for those who are joining us in the poultry sphere, but those who may be joining us from cattle, livestock and dairy, as well as pork. In short, a new and particularly concerning variant of avian influenza called H5N1 clade 2344B has emerged. And this happened in about October 2021 and has already led to the culling of hundreds of millions of poultry worldwide. Well, this strain has displayed some rather unusual and novel behavior, already having reached 500 species of bird and over 60 mammals, which includes dairy cattle in the US and very recently pigs. So this clade of H5N1 is demonstrating some rather potent cross-species transmission capabilities. It is quite concerning, but on the positive side, Australia and New Zealand, or Oceania, are currently the only continent free of H5N1. It is, but on the flip side, H5N1 has reached both mainland Antarctica and the subantarctic islands, which has created a new potential for a southern invasion pathway into Australia and New Zealand, which means we now have to watch our southern borders too, not just the usual northern migration routes. Well, you heard right. In Australia's wild bird monitoring program over the past 20 years, they've found low-path avian influenza in all states with about a 2 to 3% prevalence, but have never found high-path avian influenza in wild birds. And what we're seeing with this new clade of H5N1 is that it's changed the typical infection pathway, or pattern rather, and instead of requiring this low-path to high-path mutation in poultry, H5N1, with this clade of H5N1, can spread directly among wild birds and directly infect both poultry and mammals. Perhaps surprisingly, humans don't need to be terribly worried for now. While we can be infected, the infection rate is remarkably low, with only 15 confirmed cases of the clade 2344B present in humans since October 2021, despite millions of infected animals worldwide. Why don't we focus on Australia in particular, who experienced a few outbreaks of avian influenza? But interestingly, these were caused by 3 different H7 types, representing 3 different spillover events rather than a single spread. A problem that is currently happening in the bottom of the South Island of New Zealand in Otago, where the H7 strain has been identified, which really highlights the critical importance of being able to draw on detailed records instantly. If your operation is affected, you're going to need to provide instant and disparate movement and interaction records between your many properties. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Guy Davidson, who's the head of customer here at Onside, who will articulate to you how exactly Onside's robust biosecurity features can do exactly that and help you with your digital tracing in the event of an avian influenza emergency.
Hi, I'm Guy Davidson. I'm the head of customer here at Onside, and today I want to take you through Onside's tracing dashboard, which is perfectly situated to help businesses like yourselves with tracing in the case of a biosecurity event like avian influenza. So really where the Onside tracing dashboard comes in is it takes a lot of the information and data that you get from movements in and out of your property, whether that's people, machinery, equipment, etc. And it can bring that all together in a logical format that actually displays where relevant movements have come and gone from properties, so that you can, in the event of a biosecurity outbreak, very quickly respond and point your resources in the right direction to make sure you get in front of any spread events. So we'll take you through this dashboard in this example. What you can see here is really movements over time. So it's looking at total movements of people coming and going from properties, but also recorded movements of machinery and vehicles and anything that's important to you that could be a higher risk of spreading a potential disease around. And so if you're looking at the first page of this dashboard, it's really just quantifying the movements over time. Are you capturing the relevant movements coming and going? And then drilling down into things like seeing the recorded movements of vehicles in this example. So when are feed trucks coming, when are crew trucks coming and going from your properties. But also you can have things like equipment, electrical, machinery, cages, whatever is relevant to you and your company, you can customize this part of the dashboard. But really the power of this tracing dashboard is this connection tracing section. So within the connection tracing, this is where you can specifically say there is this property or properties of interest, and that's either in a pre-event, so you can do mock exercises with it, or it can be as you detect or think that you've detected something like avian influenza on one of your properties. So for example, if I come in here and I'll just type in office for now, I can look at the head office of the property. Then you can look at checker movements over time. So this could either be people movements coming and going, or it could be recorded movements of vehicles and machinery. Then you choose the date range you want to know. So this can be depending on what the disease is. It might be in a month, I want to know movements in and out of that property, or it could be 3 months, a year, however long makes sense to you and your business. So if I leave it a month for now, and then I want to know any movements that happen within that month that only have 1 week or less between them. So you could change that to 1 hour between them, 1 day between them. That's really flexible, and again, depending on the pest or disease you're trying to manage. So if I run that search, it's going to immediately bring back any results of properties directly connected to that property of interest. So you can see here, this is where the property of interest is, and all these blue and green lines are connecting movements within these parameters that we've set up the top here. So you can see there's 28 properties connected to this trace, and that took a couple of seconds to surface, 173 total movements. And you can do things like toggle between trace back and trace forward to know where the disease might have come from and where might it have gone. And so if you toggle these on and off, you can see the blue lines here are trace back movements, and these green lines here are trace forward movements. You can also do things like step the movements out. So if I wanted to know, for example, what movements might have gone in and out of those directly connected properties within the same parameters that I've set at the beginning, I can choose 2 steps removed. And you can see now there's actually 46 different movements. So we've gone from 28 to 46 movements, and you can see it starts to get pretty overwhelming. This is tracing in reality. And this is why having a digital solution to be able to see in real time what movements to prioritize and the properties to go test first is going to save a lot of time and help you get ahead of a disease in an outbreak. If you did come into any of these lines and chose to click in, you would see what the movement was. Is it a person movement? Is it a vehicle movement? And what 2 properties they connect, and also the key contact for each of those properties, so you can very quickly follow up with them. So you want to know where could it have got to at the very limits. You can look at the 1 step removed connections, and immediately you're going to see that there's these property outliers that sit way further out than what you typically have as your biosecurity zone. So usually you might have, say, a 5, 10, 15K radius around the property of interest. Well, now you can see immediately whether it's gone further or potentially further than that. So you can go and test those properties first to make sure it hasn't got out of that initial zone. So if I come out here and I delimit survey all of these, I can then start to bring in my testing and know whether I need to deal with more than one region or just that one region. The power of this tracing dashboard is you don't have to just include one company's movements in it. We've got example of businesses where actually the group chooses to share their data. So you could have multiple businesses showing how they all connect to one another as well. So in a tracing event, you're not just looking at how do my properties connect and what are the movements between those. You could look at a group of properties or even at a whole industry, even across industries. So with avian influenza, the value of this is that you're not only looking at your own properties, but you could be looking at the entire poultry industry, or you could be looking at the duck industry or broiler industry specifically. So you can really include any properties that make sense and agree to share their data so that you can more quickly respond across an entire industry. One of the benefits of OnSite is that it's a network product. So if a contractor downloads the OnSite app and uses it on one business, they can actually use that same profile on any business, any farm that they go to that uses OnSite. So for example, in the poultry industry, if Multiquip is using OnSite to sign into a Dalwella property, for example, they can use that same profile to sign into a Woodlands property or sign into the Golden Cockerel processing plant. So you get this really nice clean traceability of where an individual or one certain vehicle or machinery has come and gone, which means that you're not, you don't have the friction on a contractor of having to put their details in at every single company instance, but B, at an industry level, you can start to see where that contractor might have gone at a holistic, overarching level rather than business by business. So it's going to help improve your response to a tracing event at a bigger scale. One of the major benefits of on-site is that not only does it cover you from a biosecurity perspective, it also covers your health and safety, your contractor management, task management, and mapping. We're very specifically focused on the agricultural sector, so we're only looking at agribusinesses and supporting them, but we can cover a whole range of different points of value across an agribusiness. So if you see down the side here, it gives a clear indication that we cover everything from tasks, incidents, property management, which can be mapping, it can be setting up your, where are the blocks, where are the key facilities. And then you've also got contractor management and internal staff management records. You can also do reporting across all these different areas, and you've got specific biosecurity records of tracing vehicles, machinery, equipment in and out of your property. So you can see at a property by property level what different things have come and gone and the detail behind them. And then at a higher level, you can see where have these things gone across an entire industry and where you might need to respond first. Not only can you use on-site for tracing events, but you can also use on-site in an ongoing way for better biosecurity on your farm. So you can set up questions and rules that digitize your biosecurity declaration. And we even have automation that will detect when someone comes and goes from your property, regardless of whether they complete the check-in process or not. So you get a heads up that someone's come to the site and hasn't completed the check-in, so you can follow up with them, but you still have a tracing record of everyone that's come and gone, even if they don't proactively engage with the app. When people do the sign-in process, you can set up these questions and rules that will allow you to state what rules need to be followed as they come on site from a biosecurity or compliance perspective, but also ask very direct questions around have they complied with stand down period rules, or have they cleaned their equipment before coming on site. And if they answer any of those questions undesirably, the farm manager will get notified immediately, as well as the person coming on site, and they know they have to have a conversation before that person can come and do operations on their farm. And what that's really trying to do is stop any spread of biosecurity before it happens. So you're automatically being alerted if there's a risky movement to try and make sure nothing comes in and out of your property before having to use on-site for a tracing event. So what you're looking at here is the web portal for on-site. We have the app that people use day to day on the farm, and that's how they really engage, answer all the questions, and do the sign-in process. But what you can do from the web portal is you can set up all the information, create the rules. You can even duplicate information from farm to farm, so it's a really nice and simple setup. And you can do all your reporting and pulling out the data of what people have input to the app while they're on your site. Now I'm going to show you what the app looks like for people on the ground. First thing that you'll see as you arrive on a property, if you have the automation running, is you'll see this big pop-up that says you're at this property. Click this button to sign in. What that's doing is it's picking up and detecting that your phone has crossed onto the boundary, and it is automatically notifying the person coming on site that you need to sign into this property. But also if they forget to sign in or just refuse to sign in for whatever reason, it will then alert the farm manager 5 minutes later to let them know that someone's on site and they haven't completed the check-in, which includes the biosecurity declaration. This is the homepage of the on-site app. And this is where you'd see the nearest properties to yourself based on your location, but also you can search for any property in the on-site database. So if I go to a demo property called Cluck Norris, and this demo property anyone can search for. So if you download the on-site app, you can search for any property that begins with demo and use that as a practice way to sign in and get to understand the app. So this is what a check-in would look like through on-site. You can see here some of these things are already ticked off, and that's because I have already come to this property before and I have answered some of these questions and gone through some of these risks. If I was coming here for the first time, it would make me go through everything the first time, but then every time I come back to this property, it'll remember the things I've already reviewed and only ask me to review things that are new or updated since I was last there. So I choose what job I'm doing, and this can be anything that you put into the back end of on-site. Some of them have high risk symbols, which means it will alert you, like if you're doing something like catching chickens, it's going to let people know that that operation's happening right now. If you then move down, you can have these rules that you can set up, which is part of digitizing your biosecurity declaration. This can be any rules that are relevant to your property. You can customize every bullet point that you like, and you can even write in different languages or attach documents if it's relevant. Once someone agrees to the rules, they have to answer these specific questions. And these questions can be completely customized, and you can have as many or as little of them as you like. Specifically, they're around things like, have you had your minimum stand down period? Have you washed your vehicle? Do you have any pig or poultry at your residence? Questions like that. And if I answer in an undesirable way, so for example, if I say I haven't had my minimum stand down period, or I do have other birds or pigs at my residence, what that's going to do when I complete the check-in is it's going to notify me that I've answered some questions incorrectly and I need to chat with the farm manager. It'll also notify the farm manager and let them know they need to have a chat with me. So it's really trying to pick up any biosecurity risk movements before they actually happen. So you're not having to use the traceability, you're actually preventing the spread in the first place. Once you check into the property, if you've answered questions wrong, you'll be notified to say, hey, you need to have a contact with the farm manager to have a conversation to make sure you're allowed on site. And they'll get the same thing. You can contact each other directly through the app. All the details are already loaded in there. And then once you've had that conversation, you continue on. You'll be able to see who is on site around you and what jobs they're doing from a safety perspective. You can include things like your emergency planning, any rules or general information around Wi-Fi codes and things like that, even gate codes. And then you can always come to this map section and be able to see where the different paddocks, blocks, sheds, facilities are, and also any risks or any tasks that need to be done on that property that day. On this mapping page, you can filter down to the different areas of the map, one of those being risks. So you can actually see where are the different areas of risk and what do I need to be careful of when I'm on this property. And that can be an area of risk as well, which could be a biosecurity exclusion zone if you wanted it to be. You can also, at the bottom here with this plus button, add new risks, incidents, or tasks. So the risks would be anything that you see while you're out and about on a property that might hurt or kill someone. The incidents is if you have a near miss or you seriously hurt yourself, you can report that directly through the app and that will go immediately to the people that need to know about it. And you can also create tasks which can be anything from pre-start checklists to toolbox meetings to even something like a fan's out in the shed and you need to fix it. So it can be operational as well. So that's a quick high-level overview of both the web portal and the app. We focus a lot on the biosecurity elements because obviously that's a heightened risk at the moment in the industry. But as you've seen as we've gone through the product, there's actually a lot of different facets, including health and safety, lone worker safety, mapping, and even task management. So this is a big reason why a lot of people are choosing to adopt OnSite, because it does not just your biosecurity, but everything else as well in one solution.